Welcome everyone. This is second lecture on the principle of management, where we begin a structured and analytical journey into understanding how organization functions and why management play a decisive role in their success. Throughout this session, we will examine its core characteristics, its objectives and the challenges managers face in today's complex and dynamic environment. This lecture will also guide you through the distinction between administration and management and help you analyze the long term standing debate on whether management is a science, an art, or a combination of both. By connecting theories with organizational realities, today's discussion will give you a strong conceptual foundation to understand how management shapes performance, people, decisions, and long term organizational success. Let us begin. We can extract a set of core characteristics that define what management is. Let's explore the first four. First, management is goal oriented. This is the very foundation. The aim of management is to attain the objective or goals of the organization. Why is this so important? Because setting goals give direction to the organization. All management activities from the top to the bottom must then be systematically directed in that specific direction. If an activity does not serve a goal, the question must be asked, why are we doing it? Second, management is a continuous process. It is an ongoing cyclical process. It's not a one and done activity. Every activity starts with planning, which then leads to organizing resources, staffing people, directing, uh, leading, and controlling means measuring. And what happens in the controlling stage? If there is any deviation found in the achievement of objective, the activities must be controlled, and this feedback loop leads directly back to planning again. The cycle never ends. Third, management is pervasive at all levels. This means management is not just something the CEO does. The function of the management taking decisions, putting them into practice, is performed at all organization level. The top level manager makes large strategic decisions. The middle level manager make decisions about their divisions, and the first line supervisor make decisions about their team's daily work. It is also pervasive in all types of organizations, not just businesses. A hospital, a university, and a government agency all requires management. Fourth, management is an integrating force. This is a critical human centric characteristic. The job of management is to integrate human resources with all the other resources available, such as money, material, minutes, and methods. And our sources make a very important point of all these factors. The management of the human factor is the most important for the efficient functioning of the organization. You can have the best materials and the most money, but without an integrating and motivating human workforce, you will fail. Let's continue with our characteristics of management. Fifth, management is about optimum utilization of resources. It is not just about using resources, it is about using them optimally. Management is apply its skills to deal with any situation prevailing in the organization. It is the manager's job to get the best possible output out the resources available in any given situation. It is the manager's job to get the best possible output out of the resources available in any given situation, even when those situations are difficult or constrained. 6. Management is intangible and productive. This is an interesting concept. You cannot see or touch management. It is an unseen force. How do we know it is there? Management can be felt only in the form of its result. What are these results? You feel it in the form of increased productivity, in the form of informed decision being made, and in the high morale of the employees. The feeling of management is manifested in the result it accomplishes. Thus, management is intangible, but its output is or should be highly productive. Seventh, management is a challenging and creative activity. A manager job is not a simple, repetitive one. Management is constantly engaged in keeping track of the rapidly changing business environment. As we discussed, these changes can be social, economic, political, technological, or international. The organization must be well equipped to face these challenges, and it is management job to provide that equipment through creative problem solving and foresight. The last few characteristics are related to the nature of management as a field of study. Management is described as a science because it is an organized body of knowledge based on the universal truths. It requires knowledge and skills that can be obtained and applied. It is also seen as the activity of the elite. It is also seen as an activity of elite, meaning it is a specialized activity done by distinguished persons who have acquired specialized knowledge, skills, and experience. Finally, management is a multidisciplinary discipline. This is extremely important for you as a graduate student. Management is not a self-contained field. It integrates and applies knowledge and approaches developed by many other disciplines. What disciplines? Psychology and sociology to understand human nature, economics to understand markets, engineering to understand processes, and many more. The use of knowledge drawn from this discipline is essential for analyzing both human nature and market trends. We have discussed the characteristic of management. Now, let's talk about its objective. What is management trying to achieve? The first and most immediate objective is the optimum utilization of resources and efforts. Management job is to utilize the available resources in such a way that it derives the maximum possible result with the minimum possible effort. This is the classic definition of efficiency. This leads directly to the second objective, effectiveness. Management utilize the resources available to them very efficiently and in a very productive manner. Attempts are made to ensure the wastage is negligible. This benefits the organization by lowering costs and benefits society by not squandering scarce resources. Third, a vital objective is maximizing customer satisfaction. An organization does not exist in a vacuum. It serves a customer. Management tries to deliver goods and services where and whenever they are needed. Effective management also ensure a proper supply of quality goods, services to the customer at a reasonable price. This focus on the customer is what completes the objective of a maximum satisfaction. Fourth, there is a growing societal objective, environmental protection. Modern management is also expected to take care of society well-being by taking environment protection measures. This is a practical objective. For example, management can adopt eco-friendly material in producing and packing its goods. Fifth, management must promote changes. Management is primarily concerned with the managing changes, whether that changes is inspired from the internal or the external environment. In fact, efficient management is symbolized by its skill in anticipating changes and planning a response to that change. Management is not just a passive instrument of change, it acts as a catalyst to promote beneficial change. 6. An internal objective is to create a better working environment. Management tries to create an environment for its worker that will encourage satisfaction with the organization. Why? Because this satisfaction will lead to the fulfillment of organizational goals and the increased morale of the workers. Seventh, management must maintain a healthy association with the suppliers. A healthy relationship with the supplier is not just nice to have, it is a strategic imperative that ensures the continuity of supply of raw material throughout the years. Finally, there is a broader objective contribution to national goal. Big organizations in particular should undertake ventures that lead to employment generation and satisfy the broader needs of the society in which they operate. This includes attempting to improve surrounding conditions as well. This seemed like a good place for our sound recap. In this last section, we have covered a significant amount of theoretical ground. We started by dissecting the definition of management, tracing the evolution from Mary Parker Follett traditional and somewhat cynical view of getting things done through others to the more modern collaborative and human-centric view of Harold Kuntz, who spoke of getting things done through and with the people. We are also established that management is widely defined as a process involving key functions like planning, organizing, and controlling. We then used the definition to build a comprehensive list of the characteristics of management that is goal oriented, continuous, pervasive, and integrating force and an intangible multidisciplinary activity. Finally, we just completed a deep dive into the multifaceted objective of management, which range from the internal goals of resources utilization and a better work environment to the external goals of customer satisfaction, environmental protection, and even contributing to national goals. We will now move on to discuss why all of this is so important. Now, let's tie all this concept together and ask, what is the ultimate importance of management? Management becomes absolutely essential whenever group of people are working to meet common goals. The success of those goals depend almost entirely on the cooperation amongst them. And what is management job? It is precisely to create an environment where people can work as a team and cooperate and coordinate with each other. Management aim at the efficient utilization of all resources, coordinating the human and the other resources to maximize organizational profits and objectives. Furthermore, if the workers in an organization are properly motivated, a key management task and their jobs are clearly defined, it will help them in improving their own skills. It also increases their capability to understand their jobs, thus ensuring the best possible output from them. So let's be specific. How does management help? First, it helps in setting targets. Management is responsible for determining the goals of the organization and then, crucially, communicating individual goals to employees to help fulfill the larger goal. Second, it helps in the achievement of goals. It does this by organizing and managing the resources needed to reach that goal. Third, it leads to reduction in wastage. By using management techniques like planning and forecasting, management actively attempts to reduce waste and as a result increase the overall productivity of the organization. Fourth, it helps in the assimilation of resources. Management integrate and assimilate its human and other resources, using them in such a combination as to get the maximum output from the minimum resources. Fifth, it is critical for meeting challenges. As we have said, management must keep itself fully aware of the business environment. This allows it is to forecast for the future. And this forecast help the organization meet the demands for that changing environment. And finally, on a macro level, it contributes to rapid economic development. How? Because the efficient utilization of resources at the level of a single firm, when multiplied across all firms in an economy, leads to the optimum utilization of resources at the national level. A common point of confusion, especially in academic literature, is the distinction between administration and management. Are they the same thing according to our sources? No, they represent distinct functions. Let's start with administration. Administration refers to the process of determining the objectives, policies, and overall direction of an organization. It is primarily concerned with making the major decision, setting the long-term goals, and formulating the strategies that guide the entire organization. Therefore, administration work at the top level of the organization and deal with policy formulation and high-level decision making. The key questions administrator ask are: what is to be done and why should it be done? Their decisions are often heavily influenced by external factors such as government policy, public opinion, and legal regulations. This role requires more conceptual and human skill as it focuses on vision, long range planning, and macro level control. Now, let's look at management. Management is the process of executing and implementing the plans and policies that were formulated by the administration. It focuses on execution of tasks, the coordination of activities, and the efficient utilization of resources to achieve the goals the administration has set. Management, therefore, operates at the middle and lower level of the organization. Its main concern is with the how of getting things done. Managerial decisions are influenced mainly by internal factors such as productivity, employee performance, and operational efficiency. This role requires more technical and human skill as it involves the day-to-day directing, organizing, and controlling of activities. Here is the simplest way to remember this distinction. Administration decide what to do while management decide how to do it. Administration sets the framework and direction while management ensures that the organization move effectively within the framework to get the desired result. This brings us to one of the most classic debates in this field. Is management a science or is it an art? Let's explore the argument for management as a science first. What is science? Science is based on information that has been empirically verified through a number of scientific methods. These methods involve the identification of conditions through observation and the verification of principle through experimentation. So, how does management measure up to this standard? Well, management does have feature of a science. First, it has a systematized body of knowledge. There are books, theories, and established models. Second, its concepts, principles, and techniques have been developed over time through scientific method of observation. Third, a cause of effect relationship can often be predicted. For example, we can predict that increasing worker motivation will cause an effect of increasing productivity. Fourth, tests of validity and predictability can be done. We can test different compensation system, for example. And fifth, management principles are to a degree flexible and can be applied universally. The need for planning, for example, is universal to all organizations. However, there is a very large but here. Management cannot be treated as a pure or hard science like physics or chemistry. Why not? What is the single biggest variables that prevent this? It is because management deals with the peoples and it is extremely difficult to understand or predict the behavior of people with 100% accuracy. Humans are not molecules. They are complex, emotional and often irrational. Therefore, the best conclusion is that management is a social science. It is a behavioral science. Its application does not lead to the same identical result every single time because the human context is always different. Now, let's examine the other side of the coin, the argument for management as an art. What are the attributes of an art? Art is about the application of knowledge and skills to achieve a certain result. It involves creativity, practice, and personal style. Let's see how management fit this description. First, management involves the application of management concepts and principles under different situations. A manager must know which scientific principle to apply, when to apply it, and how to adopt it. This is an art. Second, management is directed to achieve certain result as per the organizational goal. It is a practical, result-oriented craft just like painting or music. Third, a manager has to acquire certain skills which can only be enhanced with practice. You can read every book on management, the sciences, but you will not be good manager until you have practiced managing, that is art. Fourth, management involves the molding of attitude and behavior of people to achieve organizational goal. This is perhaps the most artistic part. It requires a high degree of creativity. It requires developing skill in relation to purpose, resources, techniques and skills. For management to be effective, both knowledge, which is science, and skills, which is art, must be applied to get the desired result. So, management is thus a very creative art. It utilizes the unique skills and talents of people. It requires vast knowledge, yes, but it also requires innovating, initiating, implementing, and integrating skills in relation to goals, resources, techniques, and results. The act of molding the behavior of pupils to achieve organizational goals, especially in a dynamic and ever changing environment, is without question an art. So, what is our final verdict in this great debate? The most logical and widely accepted conclusion is that management is both a science and an art. It is science because it has an organized, systematized body of knowledge based on universal truths. Science provides the knowledge. It gives us the principles, the concepts, and the techniques. It answers the question, what do we know about management? It is also an art because management requires certain skills which are personally processed by the managers. To apply that knowledge, art deals with the application of that knowledge and skills. It answers the question, how do we use what we know in this specific unique situation? A manager must possess both. They must possess the knowledge of management principle, concept and techniques, which is comes under science. But they must also know how to apply this principle and techniques in different, complex and often unpredictable situations, which is art. Science provides the what's and arts provide the how. So let us conclude today's lecture. Management is regarded as the most crucial factor in the success or failure of any business organization. It is the process that plans, organize, direct and controls the activity of and control the activities and resources of an organization for the singular purpose of achieving its common objectives. It promotes the effective and efficient utilization of all resources, human, physical, financial, and informational. In the final analysis, management is the dynamic, life giving element in every business. Without it, the resources of production remain just resources. They never became a productive, goal achieving enterprise. Thank you, dear learners, for active listening to this lecture. Thank you very much.